Hey folks, Dan here. Today we are taking a look at two very small, really right stuff tripod heads. We have the BC-18 and the BPC-16. There's a lot of similarities between these, so I thought we would just tackle them in the same video, and then we can discuss which one is best for your purposes. Okay, I'm going to put this BPC-16 down, and we'll start with the BC-18 here. Some people might call this an inverted ball head because we actually have the rotation and the clamp above the ball. So you can see that moving around like this. You know what? I'm actually going to put this on a small tripod. It's easier for me to demonstrate. So I'll use my TFA-01 Ultra Really Right Stuff tabletop tripod for this. They're a great pairing. I have reviewed the tripod separately in the past, so link up here to see that one. Okay, now we've got this on a tripod. You can put this on a larger tripod as well. There's no need for it to be just limited to a small tabletop tripod. I often put this on a 1 series tripod as well if I want to go hiking. So looking at the head, like I said, this is the BC-18. This is the slightly cheaper version of the two. This is around $120. The BPC-16, for reference, has a few more features and is around $168 at the moment. So, as you can see, we have an Arca Swiss compatible quick release clamp up here with a screw knob. And then we just have this one simple control. So this lever opens up, and once that is open, you have the movement in the ball head. Now, unlike a regular ball head, which might have a 90-degree drop notch, there is no way to flip this 90 degrees. You get about 45 degrees of motion in every direction with this. If you are using an L bracket on your camera, this is not a problem. You can still shoot in a portrait orientation by simply using the side of the L bracket. So I would recommend using these with an L bracket. I generally recommend an L bracket for almost every use anyway, but in this case, it's the only way to get portrait orientation when using these small microball heads. Okay, so that is the only control here. It just unlocks it. You have a small amount of friction available if you just do a little bit, so you can kind of give it a bit of a more precise positioning, and then you'd want to lock that down when you want to take your shot. This is an incredibly strong head. I'm always amazed actually by quite how much weight I can hold with one of these heads. So in fact, let me just grab, I've got a Sony A1 here with a 200 to 600 on it. So this is a pretty heavy setup. I can use the Arca clamp that is on the lens foot. Just do that up real quick. And you can see that this BC-18 head, I can just pick this up and there is not a tiny bit of creep on that head. This is actually really quite heavy. It's hard to hold with one hand like this, and I'm holding it out directly at 90 degrees, so there could be no other angle where there is more force going through that ball head, and yet it is able to hold that steady. So these micro balls are quite remarkable. So if you go by the official numbers, the BC-18 head has a 10-pound capacity. As you saw, we were easily able to hold a large super telephoto zoom there with a pretty heavy camera body, the Sony A1 there. I've actually held up to a 600mm lens on this when using it with this TFA-01 to get super low angle ground shots. So I don't have any issues with the capacity of this thing. It's frankly phenomenal considering the small size of it. Now, let's take a look at the BPC-16 and see what the difference is here. So let's take this one off. Incidentally, the 16 and the 18, that is the diameter of the ball. So this is a 16mm ball, and the other one is obviously 18mm. Now, right away, one slight difference with these heads. The stud on the base of the BC-18 is a fixed 1/4-20 stud, okay? On the BPC-16, this stud is actually removable. So it's a 1/4-20 stud, but we can put a hex key in there and we could remove this stud, and then that leaves a 1/4-20 hole on the bottom. So you have a little bit more mounting flexibility with this. I'm not going to demonstrate that right now because I want to put this back on the tripod. Just a little bit easier for you to see what's going on. So, having used both of these, right away what I will say is that the BC-18 is stronger. There is a much higher clamping force from this head, and if I want to carry a heavy camera load, then I would always choose the BC-18. Okay? From a function feature point of view, the biggest difference is that the BPC-16 has a built-in panning clamp. So we again have a quick release screw lock arca clamp on the top here. Again, we have one lever here to actuate the ball mechanism. And then we have this extra knob here, which is in the center of the locking knob. And if we loosen that, we can rotate this whole thing. So the reason you might want to do this is, of course, if you're into panoramic photography and you want an ultralight head for hiking, potentially with this tripod or some other ultralight carbon tripod, and you want a very, very lightweight head to do your panoramic photos. We obviously have the laser engraved etchings on here. You can see that little close-up view there. So you can make sure that you get all of your panoramic shots in the perfect position. So if you like panoramic photography, then this is going to be the best choice for you. If you very, very rarely do panoramic photography, I would recommend getting the cheaper BC-18 head just because of that stronger lock that you get from it. In general, I tend to use this one because I don't do a lot of panoramic photography, and when I do, I tend to use a larger head than this. Anyway, so those would be some of the main differences. One other thing is a slight difference. You see here, there is actually a notch, so that unlike on the BC-18 where you could not do a 90-degree shot, you actually have a little bit more room. It's not quite 90 degrees because most of the time this interferes with the top of the tripod, but you do get a little bit more angle on one side. I don't think this is enough of a feature to make it worth choosing this over the BC-18 if you don't use the panning clamp functionality anyway. So there we go. I think those are the main differences covered there. Like I said, the BPC-16 primarily for panoramic photographers, a little bit more expensive, and doesn't lock quite as strong with a heavy load. For everything else, I would recommend choosing the BC-18 head, and as a bonus, you save a few dollars doing that. All right, that's everything covered with these, I think. If you found that useful, please do give it a thumbs up. That really does help us out. And remember to hit the subscribe button and the little bell because we will have plenty more like this in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.